Runners Only with Dom Harvey.
Runners Only with Dom Harvey and Dean Barker. G'day, mate.
Hey, Dom, how are you?
I'm very well. I can't thank you enough for coming over. I feel like you're one of these people. Most people in New Zealand are familiar with the name or the face. Maybe people see you out and about and they're like, I know that face from somewhere, because that's how long you've been around. But I feel like no one knows a lot about you. You are, by design, like a reasonably private guy. So I was honoured when you agreed to come on the podcast.
Yeah, no, it's good. Nice to be able to sit and have a chat with you.
Yeah. Is that a fair thing to say, though? You're like, quite a private guy?
Yeah, we've always, Mandy and I've always been, probably respected our privacy a lot. Obviously we're very fortunate to have had a lot of, I guess, public interest in different things that we've been doing, with the sports and things over the years. And as you sort of, I guess, start to, maybe not be as active in the sporting front and things, it's still been amazing, the support that we've had, over the years.
Yeah, yeah. And you're here. This chat was organised by Bowel Cancer NZ, which has become a charity that you've sort of become, I don't know, I suppose you've sort of attached your face to. It's probably something you'd rather not, but, you ended up in this position where you had bowel cancer, so you're using your name and your reputation for good, which is fantastic. Yeah,
it was quite an interesting one. Obviously, at the time when I sort of went through all the bowel cancer diagnosis and treatment and things, we were up in the US at the time. We very much kept it a very private thing. It was only a lot of very close friends and family that sort of knew anything about it. It was a year ago, really, where I saw the promotion around the Move Your Butt campaign with Jenny May Coffin sort of fronting it, and really felt quite compelled to try to do a little bit in some way to help raise awareness around bowel cancer, because it is a very curable disease if it's caught early enough. And I think the biggest motivation is, I was very, very lucky because we had really good access to the medical profession up in the US, as a result of being involved with the America's Cup team.
So you were involved with America Magic
at the time. I was with America Magic, and so we got really good access to the different doctors and things. And because we're able to get onto it early, it gave me a much better chance to to be able to deal with it, fight it, and hopefully go on and have a sort of a full and long life. But it's unfortunately, the Kiwi sort of attitude, Kiwi male attitude of she'll be right, mate. It isn't always the case, and I think the one thing that I've learned over it all and everything else is just being aware of your body, listening to your body, and if something's not right, go and get checked.
Yeah, have you been mostly good at that, or do you think you're ashamed to say been a little bit shit with it?
I'm shit with it, I've always been that way. You sort of you just always think, fit, healthy, whatever it might be, and that you'll be able to deal with it, whatever it might be. In this particular case, it wasn't something that was just going to come right. I noticed a bit of blood in my stool, which is obviously not one of those things that you're normally comfortable talking about, but it's and after it had been there for 3-4 weeks, I finally actually did something about it.
3 to 4 weeks. Okay, so I was planning on doing this podcast in sort of chronological order, going all the way back and then working our way through.
Sure,
so since we're there already, we may as well stick with it.
Yeah, sorry to sort of jump.
Oh no. It's great, and I think it's a really good message. So it's probably good to get this done at the start before we get to the fun stuff of your life. So so you're training with America Magic, getting ready for the America's Cup campaign, and then you're not feeling unwell. You've just got blood in your stool.
What was really stupid with the whole thing is I've probably had never felt fitter than I had at the time. I'd been training, really enjoying the training. We'd been busy with the sailing. We were in the process of moving from our summer training base, which is in Newport, Rhode Island, and we would with Mandy and the kids, we were relocating. We're doing the drive down through the US to Pensacola in Florida, redneck Riviera. So that was pretty good. So we had a 4-day drive down there. But I'd sort of noticed a few little things going on just before we left Newport. Still going on when we got to Pensacola. Still there, and it was like, well, I'll go and see the doctor and just try and figure out what was going on. So it was. yeah, again, it was one of those things where you just sort of thought, no, I'm fit, healthy, eating well, sleeping well, everything was kind of normal, but
And you're feeling fine.
feeling fine. Yeah, there was nothing else going on.
So
That would have.
did you say anything to Mandy, your wife? Like, oh, I've got some. No.
No, because it's one of those things that's a bit embarrassing. Like you sort of even though it's sort of because you sort of think, oh.
But you know that if you said to your wife, oh, there's blood in my shit, she's probably going to make you go to the doctor immediately, right?
She would have, I'm sure.
Yeah.
But it's just one of those really, it's hard to explain.
Yeah.
Sort of, it's there. It feels, it's sort of not, a great dinner table discussion. So you
Just
do
keep it to yours.
Yeah, and you sort of think, oh, I'm sure it'll sort itself out, and and so it didn't, and then so I sort of started the process.
You didn't Google it on your phone or anything? Like, if you Google like your blood and stool on your phone, the results are never going to be good.
No, and I didn't. Again, probably because in a little bit of denial, sort of thinking, well, it's probably just it'll be nothing, it'll go away, and then we'll be back to normal. But the where I became a Google doctor was sort of a little bit further down the track after I'd sort of been through the process of seeing the gastronomical doctor, the colonoscopy, and everything else after that.
There's parallels between your story and Lance Armstrong, the cyclist. Like
hopefully not quite, not too many parallels, but yeah.
Early on, he famously had testicular cancer, and if you read his book, he talks about his testicles swelling to the size of grapefruits, and he's just constantly used to being in pain from being on the saddle 6 to 7 hours a day, so just ignored it and kept on riding through. So there's similarities there. I wonder if it's a high performance sort of thing where you guys are just used to.
For me again, there was no negative sort of impacts of what I was dealing with. So it wasn't like I felt unwell, needed to go and get checked out or anything. It was just purely like just almost like a side effect sort of thing that was just sort of in the background, and but just didn't really think too much of it.
So you get on the medical treadmill, you go and see a doctor, you have that initial conversation. When does it become apparent that things are bad?
Well, the hard, in some ways, the frustrating thing was that the doctors were incredibly upbeat the whole way through, and no, you'll be fine. This is just so the gastronomical doctor said it's probably just hemorrhoids, and you go away sort of thinking, oh great, but he go out of precaution, we'll get you in for a colonoscopy, and that was going to be 3 months down the track. So clearly there was no urgency on his side, and so then I went back and saw the doctor who was sort of aligned with the American Magic team. He said, no, it's not okay. We want to push this through. So with his contacts, I was in getting a colonoscopy the following week, and so you're in there.
What does that involve, by the way?
So the colonoscopy, it's sort of like everyone thinks of it, and probably in the worst way. Basically they're putting a tube up through into your colon just to sort of look at the colon lining and around the bowel just to see. Well, typically if they see the start of potential sort of tumours or whatever, they call them polyps.
Yeah.
And during a colonoscopy, normally they'd remove those while they're there. So it's very you basically have a laxative for a day or so before the process just to clear you out, and then you basically they put you under for probably 45 minutes, maybe an hour, like tops, and you're sort of done and dusted, and so you wake up in the recovery room, and the doctor will normally just tell you then and there what the state of play was, and so so when I'd got my one there, sort of going into it, the guy said, oh no, you'll be fine, nothing to worry about. I wake up and he said, oh look, unfortunately we found a tumour. He sort of talks about where it is in the colon, and shows you a few little of the images that they take when they're doing it. So that was kind of quite a big shock. But
what's that moment like? Did the room start spinning? What were you?
Well, you're still sedated a bit, so you're probably
drowsy.
Not thinking, not thinking that clearly. But where it really, I think, became quite emotional, or where it really sort of it sunk in, was the doctor then said, look, I think it'd be really good because, normally if you've got bowel cancer, if it's going to move to other parts of the body, it's normally the liver and lungs. That's with bowel cancer. And so they wanted to do a CT scan, which so they put a contrast in, and then they basically just check your organs just to see whether there's any other areas, and you're sitting there thinking, wow, so I've got a tumour. More than likely, it is a a cancerous tumour, and then straight away it's like, where else in the body is it, or has it actually moved anywhere else? And so the relief of when I got the call from the doctor saying, look, the CT scans have been checked and looks like all your organs are clear. So that was like a huge
relief.
Huge relief. Still obviously got this tumour, but it's but at least it hasn't sort of.
It's been ring fenced.
Yeah, and so that was kind of the first time you really did feel quite emotional about it. And
so what sort of period of time is this happening over? So you get told you got tumours, it's probably cancerous. We got to check these other organs. This
is within a week. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
All within a week. I've seen been told by the gastronomical doctor that that it was probably just hemorrhoids. So like you've gone from there to there. So now they're sitting there with this tumour. I think it was about a week later. Again, the doctor was just phenomenal, and so he found this surgeon up in Birmingham, Alabama, which is probably not a place too many people have been to, but so we were up there for Thanksgiving weekend. So my daughter, who was boarding up in Massachusetts at a school there, she was down for the Thanksgiving break, so we broke the news to them that we were going on a family holiday to Birmingham, Alabama. At that stage we didn't have it in us to really tell the kids that that I had a cancer.
So you and Mandy made the decision to keep it from them.
Yeah, we said that I was having a small surgery,
right.
But just because the problem is everyone thinks of cancer as it's a death sentence, and it doesn't need to be. Obviously there's some worse than others in that respect, but fortunately with bowel cancer it is curable if it's dealt with early enough. So we needed more information before we really wanted to go into the detail with them. So we went up there. You're basically in hospital for 4 days while they remove the tumour and let the colon repair enough, and then we're back down to Pensacola. So the surgeon was great. He basically, they did it with like robotic surgery, which is allows even faster sort of repair time. And so we. So after the operation, he basically said, look, we're going to, so we've taken the tumour out, all went really well. We've taken 24 lymph nodes around the site just to see whether there's anything there, just more out of precaution than anything, but you won't need anything further. And so you sort of think, oh, this is good, we've sort of done the hard work now and, get through the recovery and be fine. But unfortunately, the wait for the biopsy on the lymph nodes was about a week. So, you're just sitting there.
Just hanging in limbo.
Yeah. And it was that was quite tough. And
what were you doing? Were you
just in recovery? Like you're still, because it's quite a decent sort of surgery.
Sure.
You're not really that mobile for a few days. You're slowly building back up, doing a bit of walking and things, but. We're out walking the dog, and Mandy and I, and then we get the phone call. Just said, look, unfortunately, 6 of the lymph nodes have got cancer, signs of cancer, and so you're going to need to most likely go and do the chemo. So now you're going to see the oncologist, and sort of all of that kind of thing from there. And so Thanksgiving is end of November. There was an opportunity to try and start the chemo by sort of mid to late December, and with the type of chemo that I had, they in the US particularly, they were really keen to do it via a port. So they put like a
little tap.
Yeah, so it sort of just sits below the skin. So they put it in there. It's sort of like got a rubber membrane where they just sort of pin like an IV into that membrane and tape it in place. And so with the I had to go on. It was like 12 rounds of chemo every 2 weeks. So I'd go on a Monday, and you'd go in the infusion suite, and you sat there for like 6 or 7 hours. Just they put in steroids and anti-nausea meds and things, and then they'd start the chemo, and then they'd give you a pump, which is like a man bag you'd take with you, and you'd have that with you for 2 days, and that was just like a slow release of chemo. Go back in on the Wednesday, they'd take it out, and then you had 10 days to sort of recover before the next round. And so that was
how did you find the chemo experience? I've had Di Henwood on the podcast, who's he's got stage 4 cancer at the moment, and he talked about just how misleading the perception with chemo can be, because people see movies and they see someone that's bald and throwing up, and he said the reality for him was quite different. Like he was doing 7 days and some other shows like that with a chemo bag hanging off him. How was your experience?
It was an interesting one. I found it very sort of a cumulative effect. The first 1 or 2 were remarkably sort of okay. I think every chemo, every treatment, is different, the cocktail and things, and so some people like fly through it, other people definitely battle. And my experience with it was it was a challenge. I think mentally more than anything, it was very challenging, because you're just constantly feeling feeling shit. The chemo would sort of kick in so the pump would be out by the Wednesday. Normally the Wednesday, Thursday were just the worst days, and I was trying to carry on with the training with the team. So I'd go and do the sailing and things. There was always that goal to be back sailing with them by the Saturday or the Sunday, and to have that sort of, I guess, motivation was really good, because it sort of took your focus off what was going on, because it'd be very easy just to sit there feeling sorry for yourself. I think definitely being able to get out there and sort of really sort of just keep pushing on with different things was a really
like a nice motivating thing.
Really motivating, yeah. Because you're there, you're doing the chemo, you know you're doing it to try and kill anything that's left in your body. So to be able to fight it and actually be motivated to do that, as opposed to sort of sitting there thinking about dying, it's like it's quite a different prospect, because you've really got chemo in different ways. It might be there just purely to extend someone's life, or in my case, and everyone else that in that same position where they got the ability to sort of keep fighting it, then you probably go on with quite a different attitude to it.
Were there moments where you were thinking that this is it, this is a matter of life and death?
Not really, because I think because the doctors have been very upbeat about it all, and had been very clear that it was this was a preventative more than anything. The main cancer had been removed with a tumour. Yes, it was in the lymph. The chemo should be able to kill anything that was left in the body, and so I think the attitude for me was much more of, look, you've got the opportunity to fight it, and if while you've got that chance, you really want to, and but God, it changes your perspective very, very quickly on life, because before then you sort of think you're bulletproof, and you're fit, healthy, like you touched on before, the Google doctor type thing. And you start looking at who's likely to get bowel cancer. It's normally elderly, overweight, smoking, drinking. Like all the boxes that you just don't tick. And so then you start questioning why. Why me? Why? What have you done wrong in life to sort of to have that? And I really think a big part of it, because the only thing I can think of is it can only be stress. Like there's just it you just can't you can't rationalise it with any other thing. So that was kind of where I got to in my head.
Yeah. Geez, were there lots of tears over that time? I don't know. Maybe that. I appreciate you being here, and I understand you're real private, so you may not even want to go there. But I'm just imagining myself if I was in your shoes, and like going home from the doctor and telling my partner the bad news. Like I'd just crumble like a fucking mess.
Yeah. there were definitely times, where it was very emotional. I think, one of the worst was, or probably the time that was almost the relief, was when I got the result of that first CT scan, because you're just dealing with all of this information and not really sure where it probably was going to end up. So that was probably the first time. Certainly, well, it was quite emotional finding out that you hadn't sort of finished the journey. I was going to have to go through the chemo, so that was another time. The last time I went back in to get the pump removed after I finished the 6 months of chemo, that was you get to ring this bell in the infusion suite, and I don't know, it was just sort of like, thank God that's over. It was just one of those things where you do it, you want to fight it, but it's wearing you down, and just in the end, to get through it is just, it was a huge, it was a huge relief. So, but it's just, there's different, it's just different times where you do feel quite emotionally drained, with it all.
Yeah, well, thanks for sharing that. Really appreciate it. Was Mandy furious when she realised you'd had blood in your stool for all this time and you hadn't told her? Was she mad?
Well, I hadn't, because I was still probably almost a little bit ashamed or embarrassed, not for whatever reason. I hadn't even told her when I'd been to the gastronomical doctor, to go and see him originally, and then because he wasn't concerned, I hadn't actually said anything, and it wasn't until the doctor said, look, I'm going to push the colonoscopy forwards. She was just flying back up to Newport because we had to relocate all our furniture and stuff out of our house, and so she was actually back up there, so she wasn't even around when I did the colonoscopy, and so coming out of that, it was a huge, I guess, shock and probably a reality check for both of us. So she wasn't happy that I hadn't told her too much about it, but it was. I
feel like it's just what you. This is what I expect, Dean. But all I know about you is what we see on TV, usually in boat races, and you seem like a strong, stoic guy. And to hear that you're like that at home as well, I feel like it's gonna. You're still young, and there's still so much life to live. Do you feel like it's gonna change you as a person moving forward? Like you will be more open and more vulnerable, and.
Yeah, I think, there's a number of things that, that have changed probably, you definitely have a very different outlook on life. You know that you need, you want to enjoy life while you can, because you just don't know what's around the corner. Yeah. And I think that's been probably the biggest reality check, is that, we've got 4 kids, and they're all different stages of, what they're doing, and you want to be around for them. And, there's just so many different things where it just sort of makes you take a step back and, makes you probably rethink, life in general. And it's, I know it's, it all sounds a bit silly, but at the same time, because you get a bit of a wake-up call, you definitely start approaching things very differently in what you do every day.
Yeah. Yeah, I can imagine. So, so you're sitting here now. It's Bowel Cancer New Zealand month, June 2023. How are you feeling now? You all clear? Physically, you're 100%?
Yeah, well, I have I have a 6-monthly checkup, so with a surgeon. So I go and see him. After so end of 21, I had to get had a small tumour on my lung, which I had to get removed, and that was, fortunately, not that it was a good thing, but fortunately it was the same cancer as from the bowel, so that it had moved around the body. So even though the chemo had probably tried to get it, it hadn't. So, but in terms of the scans and things, since they've all been clear. My scans, I do them yearly, so yearly colonoscopy, yearly CT. They typically fall due around sort of September, October, around that time of year. So it's always quite a tense time, because you just, even though you feel good and you feel like you're doing everything as you should, you never really know. But the good thing is early diagnosis, still gives you another opportunity to fight it. But yeah, I feel really really good. yeah, probably don't train quite as hard as I used to, but and that's probably more just not being involved in the teams in the same
day-to-day
capacity.
racing. Yeah.
You know, which just really drove that discipline. So having the motivation like Move Your Butt Month is actually quite a good thing. You know, just to encourages me to sort of get more active again, because it is easy to sort of to not. So
yeah. Well, this is probably like a good time to compartmentalize this and move on to some other stuff. But yeah, what's the key messaging? I know there's some shocking stats, like 3 people die every day in New Zealand from bowel cancer. But what do we need to be looking out for early detection?
Well, the main symptoms, I think, change in bowel habits is quite a big one. Obviously blood in the stool.
Bowel habits in terms of like frequency or
like if you really notice a big change in just I guess what your normal sort of bowel habits, like it's just it's just your body trying to tell you something. And my experience was obviously the blood, and so you hear people that ignore it like I did, and obviously that's not a great thing. So again, it's the making sure that if you do have that sort of thing going on, then you do go and get it checked out. There's other symptoms where discomfort in the abdomen. There's just other areas and things, but I'm not going to
listen to your body better.
I think that's probably the key message of anything is like if you don't feel right for whatever reason, then if it's persisting, you definitely want to go and get checked, because the body is it's probably your best best gauge of what's going on.
Oh, 100%. Oh, well, thanks for being so open and honest about that stuff. Like there's a cheesy saying that people say that if it helps one person, then it's been worthwhile. But I think what you were doing by being involved with this campaign, especially knowing how private you are, I think it could save a lot of lives.
Well, the motivation was, as you say, like to try and help raise awareness around bowel cancer, because it's again, I the one thing for me which was really is probably the key message that I got out of it is bowel cancer is curable. It is treatable if you get onto it early, and so like it's not there's none of these diseases are pleasant. Bowel cancer is certainly not a sexy disease by any means. It's like not being afraid to sort of put your hand up and ask for help, because it's I think being able to talk to your partner or whatever, it wasn't something that I did a good job of, but I think just to be able to, I guess, talk about it, and then hopefully that leads to a good outcome.
Yeah, 100%. Well, I'm glad you're okay now.
Yeah, no, thank you.
It's really cool.
Yeah, cheers, Tom.
Now you're the same age as me. You turned 50 recently, right?
Yeah.
So I was thinking about you over the weekend. So your dad is Ray Barker, who started like Barker's Men's Clothing. When I'm trying to remember when that came about. Was it during your teenage years? When did Barker's begin?
Dad started Barker's back in 1972.
Oh shit!
Yeah,
so like the year before you were born.
Yeah. So he'd always had a like a real sort of, I don't know, focus on men's fashion even back in those days, and they had a fantastic sort of introduction. He and another guy, Jeff Parsonson, they sort of teamed up in the early days, and they basically built it up from nothing. I think it started off as Raymond's, or collars and cuffs, then Raymond's, and then then became Barker's male boutique, and then became Barker's. So it's it was really interesting, just to see it all grow, and over the years, like I never really had a strong affiliation with fashion. It wasn't really a big sort of focus. Like I was obviously really proud of what he did with it all, but I probably didn't have that same sort of DNA, like in terms of really following the fashion brand. And but it sort of grew and grew, and I think when it was probably, in my opinion, at its absolute sort of best was, like back in the days where, every uni student was wearing a pair of Barker's trackies.
Oh, I was going to bring that up. So this is when, again, we're the same age. So when you were maybe 16, 17, 18, 19, I was going to ask if this was like a regional thing, because I was in Palmerston North, Massey University. Everybody was wearing like grey Barker's track pants. They were like the must-have item in every person's wardrobe.
Oh yeah, they were awesome. Completely impractical these days, but but yeah, my wardrobe, I had the short version of it, the longs, and you just, it was great. But but it was one of those things where at one point in time, it was just such a trendy thing, for all the students around New Zealand. So no, it was really cool.
Oh, they were amazing. So where did the sailing start? Sailing seems like the most impractical sport to do. Like, it's not running. You put shoes on, you're out the door. Soccer, cricket, rugby. You go to practice at school. Yachting seems like a lot of admin. Is it a yachting family?
My dad did a little bit of sailing when he was young. He was sort of more cricket, rugby at school and through the clubs and things, and he did a little bit of sailing, but it certainly wasn't his main sport. When I was 10, was really given the choice. Parents wanted me to do something, so it was either Sunday school or a
Sunday
sport.
school as in like church.
So so it was best to go down to the local yacht club. We went down there, and at first I didn't really love it, but very quickly it sort of started to grow. And
what do you mean you didn't love it?
Oh, I had a couple of bad experiences. You sort of, because it's a weird sensation when you first get into it. You feel like incredibly isolated. You're in a little boat on your own. Obviously there's other boats around, and support, coach boats and things. But you're you're sort of out there, and it's quite a weird sensation. That you're sort of responsible for this this little boat and trying to figure out what the hell's going on with the wind, and getting whacked in the head with a boom, and it's just and for some people just like a natural fear of water. Like some people just don't feel comfortable being away from the shore, or being in deep water, and so but I had a couple of bad experiences. Just got stuck in the middle of Lake Pupuki at one stage, where it was just couldn't turn the boat around and get back to shore, and you sort of start panicking. What could go wrong there? But it's over time, and just sort of a little bit of perseverance and things, just sort of got the confidence back, and really just sort of built from there on. It started off just sort of being fun, hanging out down at Murray's Bay with all of the other kids and things, building up these friendships. Once you sort of mastered all the sort of the learn to sail type training, then you were able to go and start doing a bit of racing, and even though to begin with it wasn't sort of incredibly successful, it was still great to participate and be part of it, and it sort of quickly grew into something that I was getting more and more passionate about.
So not much natural talent, just a lot of hard work?
It was, I'd say a lot of hard work,
Yeah.
It was, and I was quite young versus the generation of the kids that I came through with, so I was sort of always on the younger end of it. So always, for a long time, just sort of always trying to catch up to the level of these the kids who were sort of probably 1, 2, 3 years older than I was, and but I think in the end that was a huge benefit, because you were sort of always trying to pit yourself against these kids that at that age, when you're sort of going particularly through that sort of 12 to 16, 17 years of age sort of period, 2 or 3 years of age is a huge amount of maturity, and so it was great to be able to sort of always be challenged to be at the same level as these other competitors that I was sailing against, and they end up being great friends, but also really strong competitors, and so as a club, Murray's Bay Sailing Club was incredibly strong, and it was generation after generation of really good sailors that sort of came through. Ray Davies was sort of there was a year ahead of me. Another guy, Hamish Pepper. There was another guy, Jeff Senior. Either been part of Team New Zealand or heavily involved in other sailing around the place, and we were very fortunate to have guys like Russell Cootes come and do some coaching at the club, and a lot of other really strong people as well. So, we were immersed with, like when you look back now, with, some fantastic talent there, but also, some very strong coaching support.
Yeah, so when did you first meet Russell Coates? Because he sort of shoulder tapped you and got you into Team New Zealand when you were in your early 20s, right?
Yeah.
But did he first see you as like a teen or?
In the young days, probably when I was 12, 13, he came to Murray's Bay a couple of times coaching.
Right, so could he see something in you then or no? No, were you just like another kid?
Probably just another kid, but what was interesting though, so Dad, so through Barkers, they sponsored Russell in his 84 Olympic campaign when he won his gold medal in LA, and he came round after he got back, he had the medal, came around home, and it was pretty cool, and you sort of, he was sort of like an idol at that stage. He was young and, obviously incredibly motivated and obviously very talented. And so then, he was doing some coaching down at Murray's Bay from time to time, and I still remember, he was just like, forcing us out there in strong winds and, everything else, and everyone out looking around going, geez, you're sure about this? But, you could just sort of see just that attitude towards it was really probably, just that focus on being successful.
Yeah. So how did that go about that? He got you into when did you first join Team New Zealand?
So myself and Hamish Pepper. So we were both competing against each other in lasers and things. So in '93, we both got asked to join and do a bit of sailing with the team here in New Zealand. So they had two boats. So they were with Peter Blake, they'd formed this new outfit, Team New Zealand. So it had morphed on from the '92 campaign, so we did some sailing. Really enjoyed all the racing and things we were doing on the boats. Got asked to go and sail on the B boat and be involved in San Diego, but at that stage I was still content with sticking with my own sailing. Doing the different Olympic sort of type boats and things. And so I didn't end up going to San Diego, but it was obviously fantastic to see Team New Zealand go up there and be successful, win the cup for the first time, bring it back to New Zealand, and then got involved with the team again in '96. When they came back.
So it's '96, and then so '96. So was that here in New Zealand?
Yeah, so when I got involved in '96, it was leading up to the 2000 campaign.
Right.
So the team was sort of based back here, sort of slowly ramped the operation back up, and then I think by '96, '97, I think the team was fully operational back here in New Zealand.
Right. So is that the time where Russell Coates and Brad Butterworth they left New Zealand and went to Alingi? Was it Alingi?
Yeah. So that was after the 2000 Cup.
Right.
Yeah,
okay.
So immediately after the Cup, while we're all probably still partying, they obviously at that stage had formed an alliance with Ernesto Bertarelli, who he's obviously synonymous with the Cup through Alingi and through the obviously winning the Cup in 2003, defending it in '07, and then now they're back in the Cup again. 20 years on.
That was that was a disgraceful time, eh? What are your recollections of that time? Oh, obviously, it was good for you because it meant you got bumped up to be captain. But as a friend of Russell Coates and I'm guessing Brad Butterworth, they you look back now and the way they were treated, it was absolutely disgraceful, right?
Oh, it was, yeah. No, it was. I think the hard thing is that I think when Team New Zealand finished the Cup in 2000, it was like it was very hard to see how another team was ever going to be able to topple the group that was assembled. There was so much experience, there was so much skill. Personally for me, it was hard to imagine how anyone would ever want to leave. And so when it all started to unravel, and all these billionaires suddenly got them, they're all down here. They watched the Cup. They're on their super yachts, and probably all thought, well, this is something.
We should get into this.
Yeah, this is probably it's pretty cheap and easy. So let's get amongst it. So
how much do we have to pay them on? It's nothing.
Yeah, exactly. And so we obviously Alingi was formed. There was One World. There was it's like 3 or 4, these sort of billionaire back teams, and Oracle, it was when they came in with Larry Ellison. And yeah, so the quickest way for them to get up to speed was to basically buy the talent and the experience, and which is, I guess, normal in any other sport in the world. It's just, for sailing and for America's Cup, and I guess passionate Kiwis, it was hard to probably rationalise. So, personally, it was really disappointing just to see the team fall apart. Yes, it was a great opportunity, and we just sat there thinking, well, this is going to be it's going to be a big job, but it was incredibly exciting. But we were a young and very inexperienced group that was left behind, trying to basically
rebuild,
carry on the sort of I guess what the team had achieved over the past sort of 5 or so years. It was it was quite daunting.
So at the time when you're in Team New Zealand, are you sort of thinking as well, those bastards leaving for the big money?
I couldn't understand, because I was young and just probably didn't really see the bigger picture. At the time I was obviously really disappointed because working alongside Russell and Brad, that was a fantastic experience. All the other guys that were in that sort of group, that brought all of this amazing sort of pool of talent together. It was really it was such an incredible experience, and so to see it dismantle and disperse to all these different teams, it was really hard to kind of rationalise. But coming back to what you said earlier, no, it was disgraceful. The way they were treated. Maybe they didn't probably leave on the best of terms, in the way it was done. But in the end, it's sort of everyone does what they need to do, right? And it's
you've got to look after your family and look after yourself.
Yeah, and so it's easy to see it all now, and I think it's obviously fantastic that Russell was recognised for the service that he did provide to New Zealand when by bringing the cup back and everything else.
Yeah, time softens a lot of opinions, doesn't it? But to think that this was like pre-social media as well, but I just remember the weight of the backlash at the time. It was
there
alarming.
was that Blackheart or Blackheart or
right.
campaigner. It was just terrible, and
it's bullying, really.
Yeah, so
under today's lens. So then you become captain. So how old are you? So you were just late 20s at the time?
Yeah. So in 2000, I was 27, or 20, going on 27, and so the next cup I was 30. When in 03. So
that was where we lost to a Lingy 5-0. Just going back, so we're talking about Russell Coutts and Brad Butterworth. It feels like then with the boats the way they were, maybe it was more about the sailor than the boat. Would that be? I don't know anything about yachting, but would that be a fair thing to say? Whereas now it feels like if you've got the fastest boat, you're probably going to win.
There's no question that they were a very strong team. We raced against Russell and Brad and Nesto, 2 or 3 times on the match racing circuit leading into the Auckland defence in 2003. And I think in 2 of the regattas we beat them, and we definitely felt like we were on a pretty good sort of position relative to them in terms of the sailing. Yeah, the America's Cup is a typical, I think, almost bar none, has always ended up being won by the fastest boat.
Right.
While the boats were very close in performance, they did still have a small speed advantage in 2007. 2003, they definitely had a better boat. They were faster. They had sort of stumbled onto some, a bit of a design gain with the hull design, which we were still very much in the same family of boats that had won in 92, 95 and 2000, whereas 2003 they'd sort of taken quite a different approach and actually found a design which gave them a pretty decent advantage across a lot of the conditions.
How do you handle that? So you're 30 years old, you're the captain of Team New Zealand, you got the weight and expectation of the country on your shoulder, you're taking on these 2 guys who have been basically painted as villains or enemies, and you lose 5-0. How do you get through that?
Oh, it was devastating.
Yeah,
it was. You as you say, you've got the weight of the nation. You don't feel it at the time because you're just going out there doing your what you think is the best possible job you can. And you're a team of over 100 people. So there's everyone's sort of contributing in different ways. Yeah, the thing which was difficult was that the boat sort of, falling apart around us, during the series, broken mast in the first race when the, filled up with water, and, it was just like a whole lot of things which just weren't, just weren't good enough. But at the same time, we didn't probably sail at our best. There was one race we should have won, which we didn't. There was just a whole lot of things that sort of, that happened, and it was just, if you're going to lose, you want to lose in a dignified way. You don't want to.
You want it like a close race sort of thing.
Yeah, and to lose like we did, it just wasn't a fair reflection of, I guess, the quality of the people within the team. Now, unfortunately, in the America's Cup, only one team is ever perceived as being good, and the rest are shit, because they don't win. But the reality is, some teams, can actually be really good teams, but just don't quite get it right. There might be one or two ingredients that just don't sort of play through, and so, are you a failure? Well, no. There's a lot of good that comes out of some of these campaigns, but only one team can get it right. You look at Formula One or some of these other things where Mercedes were dominant for however many years, and now Red Bull, and no one can touch them, and that's just purely because they've just done a few things better than others. It's not like the teams are suddenly no good. It's just that one team's just sort of managed to focus their energies in the right area.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure you can look back now as a 50-year-old man that has survived fucking cancer and take this for what it is, which is just like a blip in the rearview mirror. But at the time, it must have been all consuming. How do you get through that? Where does that sort of resilience come from to get through something as disappointing as that?
It was hard. I think the one thing that you never prepare yourself for is the focus and attention, and how brutal, I guess, a lot of the backlash, the media, the public opinion on what you do is, and because you don't go out of your way sort of to I guess drag everyone down the hole with you, but you end up, I think, in a position where you try not to listen to all the negativity, but everyone's got an opinion, and Team New Zealand has always been, the only way it's been able to survive is through government funding, in some aspect, and with that comes I guess that feeling of public ownership. The New Zealand, feel like it, so even though it wasn't just a handout, it was still, I guess, perceived as a handout, and it's
yeah, I suppose taxpayers feel like they have a sense of ownership in a way, I guess.
Yeah, and they want accountability, which is absolutely fair enough. It's any sporting team that doesn't succeed, you do need to have accountability to understand how you can do things better. And so, but from a personal point of view, I suppose the focus, the media attention, the negativity and things around it all, it really does make you question why the hell do you do it? Because the motivation was always very strong, trying to win the cup for New Zealand, and to bring the America's Cup back to New Zealand, once it left. But
you would have wanted it more than anybody.
Oh, it was just San Francisco will be the biggest, that'll be the hardest thing to ever digest, how that kind of went.
San Francisco's that 2013 we're talking? Yeah, okay.
Yeah, and, that will be, the one thing that I'll look back on and with regret, the whole way through, the rest of my life, it's just because we were so close, and you literally could touch it, and it didn't end up falling the way we did. And again, that team was phenomenal, but, we just, ultimately, they ended up with a better boat.
Okay, well, let's go straight there. So 2013, so this is 10 years ago now, and I can still, 10 years on, I can still see, you almost like wince when you sort of like bring it up. You sort of bristle a little bit. So this was, San Francisco, you guys against Oracle, and one of the biggest comebacks in sporting history. So Team New Zealand was up, what was the score?
We were 8-1 up.
8-1, and you needed one more race to win.
Yeah.
But then what did they do? They bought in some parts from overseas, or they bought in Sir Ben Ainslie? No, what?
No, it was so, people sort of, it sounds like a bit of a cop out, but so when we started the regatta, they were still at 6s and 7s. They'd been pulled up for cheating. They'd been tampering with their smaller boats had been through like a court sort of, well, not a court, an arbitration hearing, which found them at fault. They got penalised. A couple of their sailors couldn't be on the boat. So they were really in a bit of disarray. So we'd turned up in San Fran. We'd gone through the Louis Vuitton series, and we're basically just getting better and better at sailing our boat. So we're sailing that at a really high level. They were still really struggling to get their thing around the course. They weren't foil jibing and foiling the boat consistently on the downwind. They were struggling to get that sort of consistency that we were at a much higher level. So when we started the Cup, we were a lot faster than them on the upwinds. We'd sort of gain 45 seconds every upwind, and downwind, we'd normally be a bit stronger there as well. The regatta was a really, really long series, and by the time we sort of got all the way through, there was weather delays, there was days off, other bits and pieces. The races got called off because we went above the wind limit. We had one race that we had a massive lead in the and we ran out of the time limit. It was just like went on and on and on. I think the racing probably was the better part of 3 weeks. By the time we got from the start to the end. So every day they were going out there and they were just slowly getting better and better and better. And the deficit that they were suffering on the upwinds, they were definitely whittling away at that. So we were still ticking away with race wins. They'd get the odd one here and there, but then it was like it was becoming apparent that we needed to get it finished, because they were getting really, really difficult to actually hold off or beat. And so by the end, they'd turned a 45-second deficit into probably a 45-second advantage, where they were able to get their boat foiling on the upwinds, which our systems were limited. We couldn't manage stable flight on the upwinds, and that was just the game changer in the end. Because by the end we're both very similar on the downwinds. The last 2 races, we were we led them around the bottom, and normally if you had that advantage, it would be race over. But they would just literally sail straight past us on the upwinds. So it was incredibly frustrating. But the worst one was when we were leading in the race that we ran out of time. I think we were leading by over a kilometre in that race, but it was just like
just all the bad luck in the world.
Oh, it was just like I think we were like 2 minutes from the finish line. It was just so you could, and I was just like fuck, where's the break, and it just and so it just was just one of those things where it just kept going and going and going, and it was just
So 8-1, and then just day by day they're just chalking up the wins. So then it's 8-2, 8-3, 8-4.
Yeah, we had the sort of that mechanical issue on one of the races where we went into the tack when we were leading, and nearly capsized. Obviously saving that saved a huge amount of issue with damage and things. But we won that race. We would have won as well. And it's always easier after the fact. The would have and could have and everything else, but. Yeah, it'll always be really hard to kind of sit there and look at that one and say that was, Yeah, do you think you're over it now or not? I don't feel like you are, but I can't put words in your mouth. But I've had Shane Cameron on the podcast, and he told me that devastating loss he had to David Tua. He reckons it took him like 7 years to get over it. 7 years before, he'd get through a day and not think about it. It's interesting. Like I definitely don't think about it every day, but I do still reflect on just that thing, because on one hand, you look at you look at all of the fantastic things that the team had done over the thing. We're the first team to look at the rule a bit differently and figure out that they get these boats foiling, and you look at where we are today. Every boat around the world now seems to want to go foiling, and the America's Cup where it is, and it changed the course of sailing. We're sort of pioneering a different sort of pathway, and there were a lot of things we could have done better. We could have done 100 different things better, but it's you're just sort of just scratching the surface the whole time, and it felt like we were far enough ahead all the way through the process that we'd be able to sort of maintain that. But they did an amazing job of actually sort of catching back up and giving themselves the opportunity to actually overtake, and they did it only by the very barest of margins. But
and is that when we as New Zealanders got to meet Jimmy Spittle? He was the captain of the other boat, right?
Yeah.
So that started this sort of media, I suppose, rivalry between you two.
Yeah. Also,
like public enemy number one.
So Jimmy and I, we raced against each other a lot over the years on the match racing circuit. So he was the skipper of, or the helmsman of, Luna Rossa. We raced him in the final of the Louis Vuitton Cup in Valencia in 2007. So we beat them. I think we beat them 5-0 in that to race against the Lingy for the cup. So that was sort of the first time I'd sort of race, that I was really head to head, and sort of a decent event with Jimmy. And then obviously he was the skipper of Oracle in San Francisco, and then again for Oracle in Bermuda and the following one. But yeah, we certainly didn't hang out or anything in those days.
Is he an all right guy though?
We're actually great mates.
Yeah, because it's quite a small community, isn't it? The sailing community.
Yeah.
On the big scheme of things.
It is. The Oracle Team New Zealand days, there was definitely a lot of hate. There was definitely very, very competitive. But you do learn over time that you are, your fierce competitors on the water, but you do need to be able to
compartmentalise or. Yeah,
exactly. There's life's sort of a bit bigger than just the sports field. So and I think we'll always have healthy respect for each other, but it's just it was
he got you on that occasion. Well, actually, not he didn't get you on that occasion. You were just one man on the fucking boat.
Oh yeah, but
I suppose you wear the weight of the world on your shoulders as the captain, but yeah, I mean it's a far bigger picture than that, isn't it?
Yeah.
But how was your mental health through that time? Like I just can't imagine how difficult it is to to get through something like that. Did you have was there a team sports psychologist or anything like that?
No, we didn't. It was, you obviously work together as a squad, as a team.
Yeah.
You talk through, where things are at. Everyone deals with things in different ways. I don't think two people can be this. Are ever going to deal with things the same.
No.
Again, while you're in the process or going through the races, you don't really sense it. It's only sort of when it's all said and done that you really, I guess, feel that sort of the hurt of the disappointment, the emotion that goes with it, because you literally put everything into it. And for me, that was really the one where it hurt the most, because you literally have put everything you have into that campaign
over many years,
and then one day it's just it's suddenly there's no more races and it's over, and you're packing up and you're going home, and it's bloody hard, because you don't ever for 1 minute think about what's going to happen tomorrow. You're always thinking about the regatta and going out there to win races and ultimately win the cup. So when it finishes and you haven't got what you're looking for, or the result that you expect to get, it's just this massive black hole, where you just sort of think, what next? And so so to deal with that was, and that for sure has been the hardest one ever to kind of to deal with. Just because we'd been so close, we felt like we'd had the opportunity to win that one.
It was one hand on the trophy, as people were saying.
Yeah, and so to not was just like incredibly hard to deal with.
And was there like a fallout or a personality clash with you and Grant Dalton at that time, or was that just like a media sort of?
No, look, we'd been fine all the way through it. Obviously, probably where it escalated was when obviously the media sort of started climbing on board, sort of picking apart all the different decisions and things that have been made during that process, and obviously that created a bit of friction.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh man, you've been through the ringer, eh? Like it's not a career for the faint.
No, it definitely isn't. And should I,
Like
would have been a lot nicer to be sitting here, talking about, how
I won that one, and then I won that one, and
yeah.
But when you look back now, like, and you reflect on your career so far, it's not done yet. Are you happy with it?
There's not a thing that I would change.
Yeah.
Obviously, other than if you could the results, but I've been very, very fortunate to work with some amazing people, and been part of some really special teams, and you work with so many talented individuals, like in design, shore team, trainers, all these different people that open your eyes to different ways of doing things and how to be a better person. And just, I've always been fascinated with the engineering and design and the technology of what we do. And yeah, I think if it was just going out and doing the same thing over and over and over, you'd very quickly become bored. But because you're always learning, every single day you'd wake up, you'd be thinking, what are we going to learn today? Is the boat going to be faster? Is it some better way of doing something? Are we going to learn a different technique of how to race the boat better? Or what? You're always challenging yourself to be better, and I think that was probably one of the best things about it. Like, to go to work and know that you're probably going to come home slightly better off than you were when you arrived. It was pretty cool.
Yeah. So they're two very, very different, but two very big events in your life. So there's the the bowel cancer diagnosis and the 2013 America's Cup and that whole campaign, and then the ultimate disappointment at the end. How do those two compare in terms of like big things on the scheme of life? Yeah, is there any sort of
don't know if I've ever really thought about it like that. It's they're two.
I suppose one big difference is they are both big things. One's a matter of life and death. The other one's not. It's just sport. But one you can do in private with just your family. The other one you've got the 4 million people with an opinion, even though they don't jack shit about it.
I think that the biggest difference, I'm just thinking about it as we're sitting here now, but probably the biggest one for me was that, one is, as you say, it's a personal, it's sort of you against, something that you can't even see or touch. You're just dealing with something that has happened to your body, and you can't really, maybe you can't rationalise it or figure out why, but it's there and you've got to deal with it. The other is something that you've planned for and you've known, and you've got your sort of your timeline and everything else, and so you've sort of got the benefit of time to sort of make a plan and figure out how you're going to sort of put all the pieces together, working with a group of people. So one's a very personal thing, one's a much bigger thing where you're sort of operating on a different kind of scale, I suppose. But what's harder? Well, without doubt, it's the personal battle with your health, because it's the one thing that you know that you have to win. It's it's not one that you can sort of accept the other alternative.
Yeah, well, thanks for that explanation. Yeah, sorry for putting you on the spot.
No, it's fine. It's quite an interesting way to look at it. But.
Well, I mean, you've just been through like that 2013 America's Cup campaign. It's a team sport, but it's you've been through something that no one else will ever get to go through, and I just can't imagine what it's like going through that. And the fact that you did and made it through the other end, and you're a stronger person for it, it speaks loads about your character, I think. It's
amazing how you can keep challenging yourself in different ways, and and hopefully you're better when you come out the other end of it. But it's there's definitely you definitely feel scars in different ways, whether it's emotional or physical.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, where does that sort of resilience and inner strength come from? Is it something that you've had to think about, or it's just in you and you're just a tough fucker?
I wouldn't categorise myself as that. I think it's you probably develop thick skin over time, because you certainly with being involved in the Team New Zealand campaigns, where you are very much in the public eye a lot of the time. It's and that support is is fantastic when it's there, but obviously the aftermath when it hasn't gone well. You do have to be incredibly resilient. But because it's just you do get you just get beaten down and down and down, and it is really, really tough. Because a lot of it's very personal, and some of it's very uneducated, but it's an opinion that people have.
Most of it is uneducated. When the America's Cup's on, like suddenly everyone's using yachting terminology that we've heard on the TV, but we know nothing about what's going on.
Yeah, but again, when there's been public money involved, and it feels like that sort of that sense of accountability, and people, they do care, which is great, and I think New Zealand, whether it's the All Blacks or the cricket team or the netballers or whatever it might be at the time, the Olympics, everyone's got an opinion, and New Zealand, I've been fortunate to travel a lot to go to lots of different places with the sailing, and it's been a great opportunity, but people can't often understand how New Zealand can be so focused on sports and sports teams. It is quite remarkable, but it is cool to see at the same time. That the way that the country does embrace and get in behind the different things that are on at any particular time.
Yeah, actually, we haven't even mentioned you going to the Olympics. So you went to the 2004 Olympics in Athens. Who was that? Sarah Ulmer, she won a gold. The Eva Swindell twins, I think Ben Fui did okay.
Yep.
What are your memories of the Olympics? Was it a fun time?
It was
a good experience.
Yeah, it was good. Like I tried to qualify in '96 and got really close. And it was something that I really wanted to go and participate in. And so after the 2003 Cup, I jumped back in the fin. I had 6 months to basically prepare for the games, and it was just I was sort of thinking, well, if I can be involved in the America's Cup, surely I can do the Olympics. And it was a mistake because I just hadn't had enough time. Most people in the sailing and probably most other sports, they've dedicated the past 4 or 6 or 8 years, whatever, to the ultimate goal. And I just didn't have enough time. I had some good results leading up to it, got to the games, and just wasn't good enough, to be able to get to a medal position. But
I think you finished like 12th or something. But that aside, was it a fun experience going to the Olympic Games? I mean,
it's an experience where you need. I really think you benefit by going twice. Where you understand the process, you learn the lessons. You sort of see what's going on, because it is quite a daunting thing. You get there, and the security and the athletes and the team village and all of those things. You look at it and you just go, wow, this is pretty blooming amazing, and it's but that was when Hamish and Bevan,
the triathlon 1 and 2, that was remarkable.
Going along and watching that, just seeing those guys doing,
how good.
It was just so cool, to see New Zealand doing so well on the world stage. It's we punch so far above our weight, internationally. It's amazing, and you look at the two girls, Amy and Lisa, in the
remarkable.
fight, it's just how can two people dominate a world the world sport,
It must be a case of them sort of like pushing each other or keeping each other honest.
Yeah, which is again seems like a very New Zealand thing.
And how have people in the public been to you over the years? Has it only ever been nice? Has there ever been anyone that's come up during good times or bad times and been inappropriate?
Again, everyone's got an opinion, and like when you jump in the taxi and they start telling you about foiling tax and how you could do this better and everything else. It's a pretty hard case, but no, I have to say, all in all, like the support that I've had through my career, particularly when I've been sailing as part of Team New Zealand or whatever, has been phenomenal. And even like when we're here with American Magic, I think the New Zealand public in relation to America's Cup probably are more accepting now that only a certain number of people can work for Team New Zealand, and then Kiwis go and work for other teams because they're perceived as being able to bring a lot of probably good attributes to what the other teams are doing, and so but yeah, it's the support that I've always felt has been pretty special. You know, you definitely treasure a lot of that, and you do realise that, you know, when things don't go well, that you do need to be prepared to, you know, I guess, be able to stand there and talk about, you know, the reasons why.
Yeah. I've had Sir Ashley Bloomfield sitting in that chair, and he said someone came up to him once and said, I hope you have a bad day. And that's the worst he got. And it is nice to know that even when things are tough and people feel like they've got a right to say something, that they just don't. They save that stuff for the internet.
Yeah, and that was another, I guess that's been a lesson, you know, avoid the internet, because that is, you know, like some of the forums and things that exist, you know, again, they'd make you want to give up, you know, before you even start, you know, because there's the keyboard warriors, you know, they've got plenty to say, and without any sort of basis to sort of be able to say, you know, a lot of what they do say. So
yeah. But yeah, when you reflect on your career so far, mostly happy with it? There's been a lot of highlights. Yeah,
there's a lot of things which I've, you know, really, you know, feel very fortunate to have had the opportunity to do. Again, you know, if you were, you know, reflecting on it, San Francisco definitely was one that got away. You know, Valencia, we had probably as good a shot at it as we could have, you know, but I think in the end, Lingy were just, again, still too strong. But yeah, I've been just so lucky to work with, you know, some great teams, and to be you know, a part of that. So, you know, I really have enjoyed everything that I've done there. But, you know, you definitely reach a point. You know, for me it was, you know, at 46, you know, finding out about the bowel cancer, and that really probably, I guess, rang home at that point, that things were, I needed to probably just take a step back and reevaluate, you know, where I was and what I was doing, because, again, you know, the body's telling you something. It doesn't happen, you know, just because it wants to. There's probably something going on that you need to probably address.
And how's the second half of your life going to look? Your kids are pretty much almost off your hands now, right? How young is the youngest?
So we've got 4 kids. Eldest one's just turned 18. They've got a 15, 14, 12. So
a few more years. But you're at the age now where you and Mandy can go out for dinner, and someone's going to look after someone.
Yeah, no, it's good. We sort of definitely, you know, you do feel like you sort of get a bit of time back. But in saying that, you know, the kids are just so active with school sport and club sport and everything else, and it is actually really nice to see them going out and doing things for themselves. You know, like we've never pushed them into doing anything that they don't want to do themselves, but it is nice to see them really active. And I think the best part about it is that it's keeping them off their devices and everything else, because it is very different now to, you know, we used to go out there and climb trees and, you know, like ride bikes around the neighbourhood, and, you know, now it's like, yeah.
There's so much that you can do on your devices. Yeah, it's a completely different game now, isn't it?
It is, absolutely.
So how long have you been married now?
We
20 years?
Yeah, we got married we got married in 2004.
Oh, congratulations.
Yeah, so it's, I don't know how Mandy's put up with me for that long, but it's,
how did you guys meet? So Mandy was, she's been out of the public eye for such a long time now. I feel like this is by design, but there was a time, so she was seeing Mark Ellis for a number of years in their varsity days, and they were like the it couple of New Zealand, like the it sporting couple. You had an All Black and a Black Sticks hockey player. How did you guys meet? How did that come about?
Oh, it was a blind date after. It was after 2000. I went over to Sydney and watched her play. Well, you know, went and watched the New Zealand hockey team play their. It was their playoff match to get into the gold and silver final
for the Olympics.
Right. Against Argentina, and, you know, it obviously didn't work out the way they wanted. But I was aware of her then. You know, nothing really. But, you know, later in the year, we sort of a mutual friend sort of set us up on a blind date, and we went out. It was rest was history. But it was pretty. Yeah, it's been great. Like, you know, we've had some fantastic times together. You know, we've been, I think, having that sort of same, more sharing, passion for sport and sort of being involved in teams and everything else. I think that's been great, and yeah, obviously we have a very competitive relationship at times. You know,
Do you? What about?
Well,
just anything.
Tennis, or you know, like or you know, golf. I've probably got the better of her on that one, but it's but
not with dumb things like board games though.
No. But no, it's been fantastic, and she's been a huge support. When things haven't been great, but never more so than obviously going through the health issues.
Yeah.
Having that support. I think there's no way I would have got through what I'd been through without having her there to help through with that. It's because it is very, very taxing. You sort of think you're dealing with it okay, but you definitely have some downtime or down days as well.
Yeah, without a doubt. And I suppose with her background in high performance sport herself, she can offer some sort of perspective on things, like when things, like I suppose in 2013 San Francisco, when things don't go well, or is it just a case of just her being there as your support person?
Oh, both. She obviously has experienced highs and lows with what she's done with the hockey and other things as well, and she had a really tough experience when she was young. Her elder sister died of a brain tumour, at a very young age, early 20s, and so she's experienced some pretty tough personal losses as well, and so it just helps to bring a balance, because it is easy to sit there sort of feeling a little bit down and maybe a bit sorry for yourself, and just that sort of gentle reminder that there's other things going on out there as well, and so it is good to have that sort of grounding. And so
so when do you know when your wedding date is? When's the 20th anniversary?
It's February.
So it's been
year.
Next year.
Next year will be 20 year.
Right. Oh, that's a milestone to be proud of. I got married in 2004 as well, but I'm no longer with my wife. So congratulations.
No, thank you. It's obviously very lucky. We sort of had a great relationship, but it's and she's obviously never once sort of questioned travelling to be able to carry on doing what we've been doing with all the different sailing and teams and what have you. But she's obviously been a huge part of keeping the kids sort of organised and grounded and things. Because I've often had to travel and things. Managed to be there for all the births, which was probably an achievement. But
it wouldn't be worth living if you didn't.
No, you definitely hear about that. That's for sure.
Yeah, what's that like? I've never been able to have my own kids, so I've never experienced that. But it's is it an emotional experience, just an exciting experience?
The first one I think was definitely probably the most interesting, because you're in there, you've had the baby. Well, I haven't. Mandy has. And
team effort.
Then a few hours later, you're basically walking out the front door of the hospital with the capsule, going, where's the instruction manual? It's definitely. And then by the time number 4 rolls around, you sort of basically throw them in the caption, off you go. It's like very different sort of the way you look at it. The first one, I think for everyone it's always they're wrapped in cotton wool, and but you very quickly realise how kind of robust they are, and and the unique thing is how different they all are. Like just same parents but different, completely different outcomes. So. Yeah. It's I've got friends that say exactly the same thing. Like they say the first kid, they'd race to A&E in the middle of the night with even a little cough, and by the time they have kid number 3, they could be like coughing in bed at night, and they're just like, it'll be fine. Worry about it in the morning. Oh, how good. Hey, well, thanks so much for coming over today. No problem at all. Nice to chat.
I really, really appreciate it. I feel like you're one of these people, as I said at the beginning, everyone knows, but by design, like no one knows a lot about Dean Barker, because you're just one of these New Zealanders, almost like an old school New Zealander, where you've just like put your head down, mucked on in, and got through with things. So I appreciate you coming today and being so open about everything.
How do you do much running now? Or you?
Mate, I've got osteoarthritis in the middle of my knee, so the last year has been a test of patience trying to get back into it. But yeah, I got out for 10K this morning, a bit slower now, but I think I saw you at the start line of one of the Auckland marathons or half marathons.
I used to love running. Was my release, and I used to just love being, because it was so transportable. Every time you went to a regatta or anything, it was just so nice to go out for a run just to clear the head and things. And then Yeah, I just, like as I got a little bit older, just really struggled with calf injuries, just really struggled to get on top of it and just, be running and, just have an issue and just, then, so I haven't got the biggest calves, so it probably doesn't help, but yeah, I used to love it. But so yeah, my fitness training sort of cardio's ended up being more on the stationary bike, Peloton and that sort of thing. But
Yeah.
it's
Aging, mate. It's
it is.
it's tough.
It's a terrible thing. Yeah.
What did you do a full marathon? Just a couple of halves?
I did 2 or 3 halves here.
Yeah. How'd you get on? You go right. You're quite a big dude, eh? You're taller than what I imagined. I think.
I think the best time I did was a 1:32 or 1:30
Oh shit!
something. But
That's
yeah,
good going.
no, I was okay. I don't know. What's your sort of?
Oh, let's not get into comparing times. It doesn't matter. It's a very personal thing.
Right.
I got down to like I did a 1 hour 23 half marathon, which is
Wow.
it took me years. I had a goal of breaking 3 hours in the marathon, which is like 4 minutes 16k pace, and I ended up doing that, one and done. But the work required to get me to that pace, I thought after doing it, yeah, could I do it again? Could I go back? Could I even go faster than 2 hours 57, which is what I did? And the answer I came up with was probably. Maybe I could get down to 2:55 but whatever. But the amount of extra work required, it just wouldn't be worth the extra satisfaction it would bring me.
Yeah. No, it's running's such a mental thing, isn't it? Because it's so easy. I remember the first half I did. When you line up and everyone just bolts, and you sort of you get caught up with the adrenaline and everything else. You sort of almost forget about everything. About pacing and things, and you're 5 or 10k in, and you're going, oh my god, like it's So the second time around, it was actually much easier. You just sort of you had that discipline, as you say. You look at that timing and your pace and everything. But
because at the start line of a half marathon or a marathon, everyone's feeling good. You've done the training, you've tapered off, you're feeling energized by being around the crowd. But that's the hard thing, going slower than what you feel like you should in those opening Ks.
Yeah. No, it is. Because we had working with us at Team New Zealand, John Ackland, who obviously legend. He's been so involved in high performance, sport and running and things, and I remember him saying, like when I went to do the first one, and said, basically you've got to think of it that 16k is probably where you want to feel like you've exerted half your energy, and it's like, it does sort of, like the first time around, it does definitely feel like that. You sort of get there and you think, oh, it's only 5 to go, but it's a tough 5k. The last, I've never done it full. It was one thing I would have liked to have done, but
Still could.
Still could. I just got to try and sort the damn calves out. But anyway.
Mate, you've been through so much. If you anything you want to put your mind to, I reckon you could do. Seriously, like you've been through a lot.
Yeah, no, I do definitely miss the running. I'd like to get back into it, but I just got to try and sort that part out.
Hey, well, Dean Barker, you're a great New Zealander. Thank you so much for being so open with your professional and personal stories today. Really appreciate it.
No problem. Thanks, Dom.
And
cheers.
Best of luck for whatever the future brings.
Yeah, you too.